really where to begin when we're talking about the horrific tragedy that took place in Maine over the last days with reports of many, many dead, many, many injured. And, of course, who did it? So luckily there's surveillance footage that is able to give us that answer. And Robert Card is the person that is accused of this. 40-year-old firearms instructor believed to be in the U.S. Army Reserve. I believe the U.S. Army Reserve has actually confirmed that, but no further comment. He's been identified as the primary suspect. He's the man in the video with a gun. So that's what we have. It's not like I wonder if he did this. He's on video doing this. Now, of course, we have the court of law and innocent till proven guilty. But if you're in video walking through the bowling alley with a high-powered firearm blowing people away, you're probably the person who did this. Maine State Police Colonel William Ross announced that a warrant for Card's arrest was issued on 8 counts of murder with the possibility of additional charges as remaining victims are identified. The suspect's history reveals a lot of things that seem to be kind of ignored. And I've been talking all day with people about this. I was talking with psychologist John Delatorre about it, talking to FBI former agent Jennifer Coffindaffer about this, just trying to make sense of what happened here. Because
and can you make sense of something like this? Because what are we at? Like 560 in the last how many?
It's more than one a day.
I don't understand how we can encapsulate it and say this is what's going on, because it keeps happening.
Well, here's
nothing is being done.
There, when I say make sense of this, there's no making sense of someone doing this. What we have to, as a society, make sense of is how do we let people keep doing this? That's the problem. We can't, but we always keep going, why would they do this? What was their motive? Who the fuck cares? They're nuts. They're insane. It doesn't matter what their motive is. It's fucking batshit crazy, and it doesn't matter. You're not going to, if we only could have convinced him not to feel a need to go execute everyone at the bowling. You're not going to. They're insane. So what do we need to do as a society to say, let's not let these type of people fester and get to the point where they're going to do this sort of thing. Now, will there be always some that break through? Of course there will. Will there be some that will get their guns no matter what? Of course there will. But I'm going back to the whole theory of speed bumps that I bring up every time this fucking happens. And all 560 some of these that we've had in the U.S. this year, I don't know, we've talked about 4 maybe, because it's just so common, and that's just insane. So, speed bumps. This man and his past. He was committed to a mental health facility for 2 weeks in this last summer. Keep in mind, it's the end of October. Summer just ended. So he was there not long ago.
4 months ago, this guy was having a situation, a crisis that they addressed, that they dealt with. And then here he is 4 months later, shooting up a place. What did we fucking miss?
There was also threats that he made to shoot up a military, what was it? A reserve training camp, I believe. He made threats of shooting that up recently. There's other things too. I'm just trying to find my list of the horrible things that he's been out there having conversations on saying. He said he was hearing voices. These are all the things and the signs of someone who shouldn't have weapons in their home. Well, he could get them somewhere else. Sure, he could. But speed bump, we take those away. Little bit more difficult for a psychopath to get their hands on them if just, say, one day they want to go start shooting up the restaurant in the bowling alley. He doesn't have them. He has to get them somewhere. Could he get them somewhere? Probably. But it is a road bump. And that clearly wasn't there. He's a firearms instructor, from what we understand. So he knows his way around a firearm, knows how to handle himself. Coffindaffer was telling me when she saw the video, like, oh, yeah, she could tell. She's a firearms instructor as well. And these people walk in a certain way. I forgot exactly how she described it. But it was very much, this is a man who knew exactly what he was doing. So
the way he's holding the gun was very comfortable.
Yeah.
Usually when you see these people, they're like, oh, this thing is big, it's heavy, I don't quite know how to hold it.
And that's
he
why,
looked very comfortable holding that gun.
Well, that's why he's able to knock out so many people so quickly. So what do we do about something like this? Because we have things in place that could have prevented this one. The whole let's see something, say something. I agree. Sure. But how about do something once it's been said? Because clearly people did say something when they saw something for many, many months leading up to this, man. But the do something part is the part that's never really got any sort of follow through on. And yes, it does take quite a bit to go and confiscate someone's weapons, but there was certainly enough evidence here, certainly enough reasonable suspicion that one could go in and authorities could go in and take his weapons because of the literal terroristic threats of a military base. The mental health component of it alone, every state's different on their laws there. Some it's like, hey, you can get out and then go to the gun show down at the fairgrounds and pick up whatever you want. Oh, you just were let out yesterday? Okay, well, that'll be $5.99. Okay, great. Thank you. Loved getting this AR here. Thank you. Well, somebody's like, that's not what it costs anymore. You're right. But yeah, there's no excuse anymore. We have to start looking at ourselves and not these crazy people, because we are fucking crazy if we don't do anything. There's always going to be the crazy ones. How crazy are we to allow our society to have 560 some mass shootings in a year? More than one a day. And we're not even at the end of the year. And we have all these things where, well, there's how we could have prevented it. When are we going to start preventing it? We not have the systems in place. We need more people. We need better monitoring. What the fuck do we need to do? Because this, it's on us now. It's on us.
It is. And I was chatting with somebody in Facebook Messenger about this exact thing. You and I used to work. I think you worked with one of our salespeople. Her name was Rose. Her nephew is in surgery today. He was shot last night during the shooting. So, it's the 8 degrees of separation. And the discussion was, what do we do? How do we make sure that this doesn't keep happening? And I don't know that we can do anything. Maybe we take it to a different level and say, okay, we aren't going to prevent this. Obviously, we're not doing anything about it. So how do we keep ourselves safe? How do we go to the grocery store and get stew meat and potatoes and carrots for the beef stew we want to make, and then a mass shooting breaks out? What do we do in that moment to keep ourselves safe? Do we need to start training our society to just react instead of prevent?
You have react, but the reality of it is, the odds of these sort of things happening to one are very low, believe it or not, as scary as this all is. But I think the focus doesn't necessarily even need to be there. It just needs to be, how do we prevent this shit from happening? How do we because that's what it's going to be. This is just going to keep happening. Everyone's going to react the way they are in mass. No one's going to be trained on how to do anything or handle anything. It's chaos. It will continue to be chaos until we actually stop the problem itself. Learning how to react. Does that mean
better. I'm crazy when I go into a movie theater and I look at the exits and I think about, because that's what I do. And if I'm in a big place, like if I'm at a concert, because that's happened at concerts,
sure.
I sit and think, well, I need to get low and get under the seats and play dead and all this stuff.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that is not finding any sort of solution other than a way to survive should it happen. That's not a solution to any of this.
Yeah.
But no, that's just being, vigilant and smart. And I do the same things. And then I know where they're at if I should need to use them. Have I ever needed to? No. But could it happen at some time? Certainly. But stopping this is not going in and trying to figure out every which way we can escape these sort of people. We can't. They're everywhere. Yeah. And it can happen at a random moment's notice. So how do we get into these people's minds and stop them? There's some that you just will never know, and the tragedy will play out. But when we have the evidence in front of us, for the love of God, can we finally take some sort of action?
Want to listen ad-free? Want advance access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free.
So you can binge on true crime
Until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.